right, welcome back to another episode 6 of the Basic As podcast, brought to you by Basic As Media. And that's it. That's all it's brought to you by.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You do the best intro, I reckon.
Mate, short and simple. It's Basic As.
It's basic, man, but it's fucking effective.
Just like me.
Yeah.
Real basic.
I would say you're one of the least basic people I've ever met in my life.
Really?
Yep.
That's a good thing, I guess.
Yep. You're
I'm
complex.
Yeah.
In so many ways, good ways.
Yeah.
Bad ways.
Yeah, bad ones. Yeah.
Lots of ways. But so what's
So
on the
we're here
agenda
for-
this
so
week,
we're here
Big
for
Booty?
another bloody episode. Last week we talked about, what was it, the
Childhood trauma,
Yeah, and we had the childhood trauma trophy.
which went to
Well-
Rory.
Yep. And we'll keep that segment, and we'll definitely get other people to share their stories, because we'd love to continue sharing how we might do it differently, and we'd actually like to hear how you might do it differently as well, with either ours or other people's experiences.
Yep.
Because obviously,
All methods welcome.
yeah.
You know,
we're
if you want to rule with an iron fist, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. What do you feel like when you see people doing that? Like, you're out in the shops and you see like a mum or a dad just
Fuck.
being real heavy-handed with their kid. You're just like, "Oof."
I just think, man, like, I feel sorry for the kids straight away. But I'm not in that parent's shoes, so it's easy for me to speak. But, I have a memory of when I was a young man. How old would I have been? 21. And I just moved to South Australia with the army, and I was living I was living on base, but the closest shopping centre was at Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah, I know that well.
And I remember it vividly, like we were going down like where all the drinks are, like the soft drinks and stuff like that. And there was a little kid in a trolley in the where you hang your legs out at the front.
Yeah.
And so he's going along in the trolley as his mum's pushing, and she's pulled up, and then he's just grabbed a green thing of cotties and like just chucked it in.
Nice.
Just trying to sneak it in there.
Nice.
The kid would have been young too. He would have been like 3 or 4, I reckon.
Yeah.
And she grabbed it out of the trolley and just fucking like across his face, man. And yeah, understandably the kid was upset, but I was like, holy fuck, this is a whole new world.
So would you say he fucked around and he found out?
He fucked around and found out.
God damn. I didn't expect it to go
And
that way.
that is not embellished in any way. Like, it was a shock to the system to be in an area like that. I've never lived in an area in Australia. Anywhere I've lived, I've never visited an area quite like Elizabeth.
Elizabeth is very interesting. So I grew up in South Australia, so I'm aware of it. It's on the outskirts of Adelaide, so it's lower socio-economic.
It's right near where the bodies in the barrels
No,
dudes
it's
lived.
not.
Yeah, it is.
What,
Snowtown's where they conducted all the murders on Waterloo Corner Road.
Yeah, okay.
The barracks, RAF Edinburgh,
yeah,
like Waterloo Corner Road is on the back of it.
yeah, okay. Sorry, I thought
So-
you meant that like he was close.
He lived in there.
Yeah, but I'm saying I thought you meant that Snowtown was
No.
close to it. I was like,
Snowtown's
that's
Snowtown's a good hour or two away, isn't it?
yeah.
But yeah, that's it was pretty brutal to see. Like,
No
I haven't
doubt.
seen many of it, like, especially in this day and age, like, you don't see kids,
No.
parents smacking kids or anything like that. They're their kids, though. It's not up to me to say, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. They are. I feel like they've definitely gone 180 on the whole like smacking thing, because smacking was definitely very in when we were children. Because
Yeah,
I
mate.
definitely got smacked a lot,
Fucking oath. Yep.
and I saw other kids being smacked as well in
Yep.
public.
Yep.
So it was kind of like, and then your parents would point and be like, well,
There you go. Look at that.
That's what happens.
Yep.
Fuck around, you find out. You're
Dance
like,
with
"Oh,
the
shit."
devil.
Yeah.
You're going to get your toes stepped on.
Yeah. So
I don't know. How do you feel about it when you see it? Do you see it that often?
I don't see that specifically that often, but just the big thing I see is just like kids just cutting loose.
Yeah, see, I think that the difference is parents don't feel empowered, and so a lot of it is just like neglectful, like they're just
Yeah.
letting them do what they
Yeah.
want to do, and so the kids don't have boundaries.
Mm.
And again, I acknowledge that I'm not a father yet. By the time this comes out, I probably might be.
Yeah, probably.
Uh, but I approach uncleship, if that's a word,
Mm.
a certain way where I don't just let my nephews, because I don't have nieces. Niece would be nice.
Mm.
Would have been nice to have a little girl to sort of, not that it matters because Bill's not going to be a girl,
Mm.
but yeah, I approach it with not with my way or the highway, but it's like you know it's certainly, there are rules and boundaries when
Yeah.
they're with me, even if they're with their parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
you talked about that last episode with George about just spending that time with him where he wanted to kick the football, and you just set a few guidelines around it, or boundaries, if you will, around that.
yeah, trying to like progress it further to make
Yeah.
it more of a complex,
Yeah.
you know, activity for him to
Yeah.
do, so it doesn't just become something that he becomes bored with. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And like having that control taken out of his hands, he didn't like
Mm.
it. So you know,
Yeah, and so that's just a stepping stone, I guess, to then moving further through the steps.
yeah, and like people get overwhelmed and stuff. Like say for it's a shopping center, like
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's where I see it most
yeah,
of the time.
yeah, absolutely. Mum or dad, whatever, go to the shops with an intention to get things done. And
Mm.
what do you usually do when you go to the shops? You want to get in and out,
Yeah.
and then kids are just being kids, like running around doing
Mm.
their own sort of thing. And
Mm.
that's when, that can sort of wreak havoc on the
Mm.
plans that you've set. And then as a result, you feel like you need a strong arm situation.
Yeah.
And then kids, sometimes, gravitate away from that and then make it harder.
Yeah, yeah. I think the big thing that I struggle with is because I'm trying to, when I go to the shopping center, I'm trying to do the same thing, right? I'm trying to get in and out,
Yeah.
and it's just people that aren't aware of where their kids are. I find that challenging because it's their kids are running around, and I don't want to accidentally bump a kid, or I don't want to trip over a kid accidentally, and I don't want someone else to do it either. I'm like, come on, guys, let's.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing that I struggle with.
like I see what you're saying, man, for sure. Like I think of it in terms like, you know, I I would have loved to have done those things as kids, like run around and like be within eyesight of mum and dad or whatever, and but I was always afraid to do those things, to step out of line, because you're going to get in the shit,
Mm.
and so I think there's an element of like being in control of the situation, but not having the kids at heel.
Yeah.
And by kids at heel, it's like a dog training term where the dog will stick to your side no matter what until you give it the release command, like that it can go and do what it's. I approach it very similarly to dog training. It's like, if I need you to come over here, then it's for a good reason. But I'm not just going to ask you to be in this general vicinity, like because I need you to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I guess hopefully that will be more effective in the long term. That then
Well-
they will actually, when it's important for them to come over to you, they will, because
Yep.
they'll know that it's not just because dad says so.
100%.
Because I think that's like a common thing, right? Like, oh, just dad says so. You say like, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you
Like
push the boundaries, right?
absolutely.
Test it. How far can I, how long can I before I actually go back?
They'll always test you as well. Like I'm speaking in terms of like I think of little kids and dogs very, very similar. And like my sister hates it when I say it, and I'm like, well, it's fucking true.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
dogs see the world through pictures and they learn through context. They don't generalize well across the board. Kids have that one up on dogs. Do you know what I mean? But they learn in very similar ways, and both like to have autonomy over their situation. A certain level of autonomy over their situation. So if you've got a dog that you're just constantly clamping down on it and you're never letting it do any of the things that it wants to do, it's just going to be an absolute, which is what the majority of dog owners want their dogs to do, and you try and explain it to people like, you got to understand that this isn't a fucking ornament.
Yeah.
This has thoughts, feelings, desires, urges that it wants to achieve. You have to find the balance and work in with it. And people are like, oh, that sounds too hard, and I don't want it to do that. And I'm like, well, why the fuck did you get a dog? Why'd you get this specific breed of dog? Do you know what I mean? And I've
Yeah.
sidetracked a little bit, do you know what I mean? But it's the same with kids. It's like there's give and there's take. It can't just be all give and it can't be all take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because like you would have thought of times like where you're like, fuck, if I do this, like mum and dad are gonna fucking, you know, go bananas.
Yeah.
And you're like, and it affects your decision making process, and like, you know, it can also impede your development and your ability to learn. Because what do we know through having been in the army? You don't do your best work when you don't do your best learning when you're under extreme amount. Well, not extreme amounts of stress, like any sort of level of stress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Elaborate. You can talk to. I've spoken enough about it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think very similarly, and I guess maybe you wonder if they're trying to teach you, you know, like consequences for your actions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So what do you mean, man?
So they do give you enough rope, and then they see if you can hang yourself with it, sort of thing. So, you know, I think sometimes my parents did do that, and I hung myself quite a lot.
What do you mean? Can you give me an example? That's okay. If you think of one later.
Yeah, I used to just fuck around a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they weren't giving me enough rope. I was just hanging myself with what little rope I had.
What little rope?
You just had an inch on
just
I'll
figuring
do it.
it out, yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, fucking tie a slip knot with this cunt.
Yeah. Good bands.
But, you know, yeah, everybody approaches it with a different situation, like a different methodology or a mindset. And it's like you're not truly there until you're there.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, like, I fully acknowledge that. I can't. Why is my brother calling me? Should we get him on?
Nah.
Fuck him. Fuck you, Harry. Hang on, I'll just fucking turn that off. But yeah, it's interesting because, like, there you go. My brother and my sister, two very different parenting styles. You know, which I don't think Amy's going to watch this anyway. But, you know, like, she's very, like, you know, things are laid out specifically the way that she wants to do them, you know, and then keeps George in the track sort of thing, what I mean. Like, but he's very reliant. Whereas Harry's boys, they've had to figure a lot of shit out for themselves, do you know what I mean? And, like, he has, like, he's a good dad. And what I really like about Harry is that he talks to them like they're people and not kids.
Yeah.
You know, and so they'll sit down and sometimes I'm blown away about the conversations that I can have with like Charlie or Henry.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, fucking oath, man. And Han says the same thing. You know, but two very different styles, and we grew up under the same roof.
Yeah.
And, you know,
but I guess two very different childhoods, and that.
Yeah,
sort of,
definitely. Yep.
You know, your sister's female, your brother's male.
Yeah,
so
she was the first child.
Yep.
Harry was the youngest.
Yeah, so then.
And the hardest, the middle child had the hardest. You know.
And of course, that's you.
That's me.
Yeah. Your smallest violin, mate, playing just for you.
But it's true. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Have I made you uncomfortable?
No.
You just seem like you're fucking sitting with a pole up your ass, that's all.
Man, I'm just thinking, is that all right?
What are you thinking about?
How to make this show good. It's so hard. It's so hard.
Well, fucking start talking then.
I'm fucking hamstrung by you, mate. You're like a giant anchor. I'm like a peacock. You got to just let me fly.
I got to let you fly. All right.
No,
Spread
it's
your
all right.
wings, you
No,
fucking
it's all right.
kid.
It's hard because you've had a lot more like uncling and parenting experience than me.
No, I wouldn't say that.
But I'm
you've
also
done
just taking it in as well. So I'm also like, it's very hard because I'm trying to listen and be like, oh, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But then also think of something as well.
Like I put a lot of emphasis on it as well. Like it's the thing in my life that, like, it's like my whole life has been building up to this point. You know, it's not like I don't have any aspirations in terms of career or, you know, anything else. This is like my number one focus, to be the best husband I can be, and then also like try and be a good dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck about work. I don't give a fuck about, you know, having a fucking flash house or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit.
What would you then? So then you're giving yourself, guidelines. What would you see as yourself as like being a good dad? Because that's very subjective.
I just need to practice patience a lot. Like,
Mhm.
be better at practicing patience.
Mhm.
But like, I surprise myself a lot of the time as well when I'm with George or Henry or Arthur. That's what I call him, Arfie, because it pisses my sister off as well.
Nice. Nice.
Any of the four boys, and I'm like, you know, just watching what they're doing, and
Mm.
then like, they're within the boundaries of, they're not going to hurt themselves. They're having a good time. Like,
Mhm.
like my nephew Charlie loves, for whatever reason, I think it's therapeutic for the young lad. He gets out when he comes to our house, and the first thing he wants to do is get the hedge clippers.
Oh yeah.
Like, and so even though the hedges don't need to be trimmed, I just let him go for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't give a fuck what they look like. And then he's like, he went over to the dragon fruit, and I was like, he's started hacking at it, and I was like, is it really that important for me to, to like cut him off here and
Yeah.
be like, don't cut the dragon fruit,
Yeah.
because what does it matter to me?
Yeah.
It's understanding that he's not doing it on purpose, like to fuck your day.
Yeah. There's no malicious intent.
He's
there.
just like, he said this plant is ugly.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, that's a fair enough point, because yes, it does look
Mm.
ugly,
Mm.
and so I just let him, I was like, all right. And then I tried to divert his attention. I was like, what about if you go and pick some of those flowers and give him Narnie hand? And he did,
Nice.
you know,
Yeah. Nice.
just trying to distract him with something else other than what he was doing at the time, but not being
Mm.
like, don't do that, you fucking idiot. Like,
Mm.
which is what I would have heard when I was a kid.
So I know we're harping on the parent stuff a lot as well at the moment, and I think that's not a bad thing because it's something that
But it's a theme. Like, it's going to
a theme,
happen.
and also we both want to be very good at it, right?
Yeah.
But this is something that I've spoken about with my wife. And did you ever feel safe as a kid to be able to go to your parents no matter what?
That's a really good question, man. That's a fucking banger. And no.
Mm.
No.
But did they say you can always come to us with whatever problems and we'll deal with it?
Yep, absolutely.
Because
Yep,
my
100%.
parents sure did.
There was a time when I was a much younger kid,
Mm.
but then I also think of things that happen, and I was like, no, I'm definitely not going to go and do that,
Mm.
because the repercussions, even if I am saying that I feel uncomfortable about it,
Yeah.
it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's one that Han and I talk about as well, mate, is like being emotionally available without judgment,
Yeah. Yeah.
But judgment was always there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
They
my
reacted
parents.
like, boom.
Oh yeah, my dad just like, why the fuck did you do that? And I'm just like,
Well, you told me to come and tell you.
yeah,
know?
well, then you just like, fuck. Like, I would let things get so bad
Yeah. Yep.
before, like, it would basically, like, my last option was telling them.
Yep.
Or they were
Fucking
going to find out anyway. Or I wouldn't tell them and then they'd find out and then they'd
It'd
like,
be
"What?
worse, yeah.
Oh, man, why did you tell? Oh, man.
I used to hide my report cards from mum. Just because it was
Yeah,
like,
I changed a few of mine.
you changed? Oh, when they were handwritten.
Yeah.
Fuck,
yeah.
that's smart. I was too
Yeah.
afraid.
Yeah.
Too afraid to be like, try that, even try it,
Yeah.
But it was like, what do kids normally do at school? Like, they're not going to sit there all day and just
Yeah.
fucking not talk. Like, and so mine would always have like, oh, Josh talks a bit, in class and stuff like that. Fucking sue me, cunt.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what happens. Like,
It's very hard for kids. I know I struggled. Sounds like you struggled as well because your report card said you talk too much. But to sit there for 7 hours or so
yeah.
and concentrate.
Yeah.
And I know we had breaks and stuff like that, but
But the shit they're talking about is fucking boring anyway.
yeah.
Right, so that's why I always say to Han as well. I'm like, with our kids, I'll be like, as long as you're not fucking threatening anyone with a knife at school, I don't give a fuck. Because school did not define me.
No.
Like, okay, you go and, school led me to, gave me the skills or the grades or whatever to join the army, and then it's subsequently started my life after getting out of the army, dog training. Like, don't think I ever learned anything about dogs at school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I guess like the big thing I think school is good for, and this is because I had my mum as a teacher, is just like wanting to make sure that they have the basic skills.
Yeah,
Of
basic skills, 100%.
reading, writing, and then like math and stuff like that, so that they can at least look after themselves, right? Because
Yep.
you would use reading, writing, and math every day, sort of throughout it, without sort of knowing it too much.
Yep.
But then a big thing is like the socialization of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I loved the social aspect of school.
Of course.
You know, you had mates there. It was
Yeah.
good. You had a laugh. Like, but to be honest, like I don't remember half the shit. Like, you know, maths, English, all the basics, like you said, they're ingrained from the early age, and you learn them, and then you develop those skills. But couldn't tell you fucking anything. You know,
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
you know biology, or maybe photosynthesis, fucking legal studies.
Well, you
That's
remember you
gone.
got something right in biology.
That's right. I absolutely did.
The old sex ed.
And I can't even remember the other fucking subjects, John. Oh, geography. Learn how to fucking, manage farmland better.
You know how some things where some things are geography.
Yeah, I'm actually not too bad at that. You like show me a flag, and it's like one of those weird things. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely an African country flag. Do you know what I mean? Find one for me.
Okay. Well, you keep talking, and
yeah, but
I'll
like,
find something.
I the way that it's an interesting point that it's led us to the education system, like, because that's how everything is. It's like when we were kids, it's like read from a book, and someone that had struggled with dyslexia, that's hard. So then you feel you don't have the confidence, and then so you don't want to concentrate, and then you display a whole heap of displacement behaviors and stuff like that. Like, there was something on The Simpsons the other day that I was like, what the fuck? That's so true. All my pencils were fucking chewed, like, and that's like a nervous displacement behavior.
Really?
Yeah, 100% it is.
I did it too.
Yep. And they brought it up on The Simpsons, and I was like, oh, fuck, really? It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
But that's just what I did, and it was like sitting in the classroom. Why am I anxious? Because, like, I don't know how to do half this shit, but I'm expected to. And then it's also like the added pressure of, like, if I get in trouble, mum's going to find out about it. And then fucking,
All right, flag. What is it?
That's Nigeria.
Damn it. That was the first
That's a
one
fucking easy one, John.
What? I didn't know. I didn't know what it was. If you showed me, I wouldn't have known what it was.
Bullshit, bro.
No, I don't. The only flag I know off the top of my head, other than the Australian and the American, the big ones, is Nepal, because it's not. It's the.
Okay, what's Japan?
Oh, that's a white with a red circle.
There you go. There's another flag. You did it. You did it.
I mean, like.
What colour's Germany?
Black, yellow, red.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're smashing it, mate.
Look at me go, hey.
You're fucking killing it.
I could be.
See, that's how you have to teach. Even if I.
Like being like really encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
it's
patronising.
not like. Yeah, not like you fucking don't know Germany's flag, you dumb cunt.
9.
You know the language though. That's awesome.
Yeah, remember with the Russian? I'm all over the Russian. My 3 words.
What are they?
Suka, blet, and niet.
Niet.
So
Niet, no.
Suka is fuck, blet is bitch, and niet is no.
Well, you've got the fundamentals there to really survive in Moscow.
Yep.
So,
Yep. That is true.
What do you think of, speaking of Moscow, what do you think of, like, people that aren't Ukrainians going to go and, like, fight? As someone that's, like, been in the army,
I wouldn't do it.
Fuck no.
That's an interesting one.
So a lot of people our age...
It doesn't mean anything to me.
No, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Why would I volunteer to go? Which sounds really harsh.
And but people will then go, oh, people being invaded doesn't mean anything to you. And it's like, well,
it's not our country. Like,
yeah.
100%. And if Australia got invaded, like, shit, I don't think I'd want to go back to the army.
No fucking way, mate.
And that's purely because of our experience, and we know what the army's like. So it's different. It's not like we would do our own things to help.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, we would. If it was Australia being invaded, we would probably want to try and help that.
Yeah, I'd probably train dogs in it.
Yeah,
in some way or another, but, like, I wouldn't be part of the army. There's no fucking way you would get me back.
Well,
in
we
the
both
uniform.
neither of us can actually go back without
Thank
like
fuck.
like without medical sort of certificates, and we would fail those on purpose for sure.
100% I would.
They'd be like, and we'd be like,
You
nah,
got it on a record,
yeah,
and I don't even care
yeah, yeah.
because fuck that joint.
Yeah. Speaking of that, did you ever meet anyone that was openly said that they lied in their psych eval?
What, to get into the army?
Yeah,
No, I haven't. I didn't come across anybody that had
yeah.
said they lied, but
We had one guy. He wasn't very smart because he told us.
what did he say?
He said that they asked him all these questions and he just straight up lied. It's mainly about like guns and wanting to kill people. And he's like, nah, nah, nah. But he wanted to kill people.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people would like slip under the radar doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. No one ever admitted that to me, but like there were definitely people that I've met
Oh, yeah, I
along
would
the
agree.
journey that you're like, yeah, man, you would, given the opportunity, you would fucking.
Yeah, yeah. That's an interesting one.
Mm.
That's a dark turn there.
Yeah, it did go down a dark turn. But like
Yeah.
I see, like British nationals, Australian nationals, you know, Americans, whatever, and they're all like, you know, come and help us fight fucking Russia. I'm like, fuck off, gun. You can do that yourself.
Yeah, I
Like,
guess it's hard because it's like what, and it sounds extremely selfish, but it's like, what am I going to get out of it? Like, how is me going to help? Because I'm no
very fucking little, John.
I'm not
honestly.
like a super soldier.
Nope, very little.
Um,
Absolutely minuscule.
Yeah.
Like, the chances of you having any real bearing on the outcome of what's going to happen, fucking minuscule.
Yeah.
Absolutely minuscule.
Yeah. Because this
You know,
isn't Call of Duty.
This is not Call of Duty.
So then on that point specifically about, us not being able to, we now know that, we wouldn't make a massive change in the grand scheme of things. But why did you join the army? Because
I'll tell you why I joined the army. I'm pretty sure I've spoken about it before.
Yeah.
Is that I got way too fucking stoned one night. I had a mental breakdown, and I was like, well, I have to distance myself from the life that I have at the moment, which wasn't true. It was just that the fact that pressure was being applied on me from all angles. I didn't have the best group of friends. Didn't know that. You know, I wasn't in a...
'cause you were what, 19 at the time, were you?
I was 19.
Yeah.
I was just about to turn 19.
So you were young.
Yeah,
You
I
were
was
very
fucking very young. And it's like, I'd put down roots in bad earth. And also, mum and dad were like, what the fuck are you going to do with your life? And it's like, you don't
What's wrong
have
with
to...
Bathurst?
What? Oh, bad earth. Fucking idiot.
Great racetrack.
Great racetrack. You have to take me there one day. But yeah, that was what it was. And mum and dad were like, well, what the fuck are you going to do? You need to get like an apprenticeship or something. And I was like, I don't want to fucking get an apprenticeship. And I don't want to go to uni. Like, I didn't have the answers back then. And
Yeah.
so, wigged out, I was like, you know what? I'll join the fucking army. And
Right.
that's it. And I went through the process. And the people at recruiting decided that it would be a good idea for me to go to fucking Duntroon, also known as Bullshit Castle, and
Specifically for officer training, for those
Yeah,
that
for officer training.
unsure.
and so I passed the OSB Officer Selection Board, and then, you know, I did just under 12 months there before I transferred over to be a reg, and you know, fucking learned some shit there, man. Like, that meant to be one of the best leadership academies in the fucking world. That's what they say, you know, up there with like West Point and fucking all that.
Of course they say
Fucking
that.
horrible shit, man. Like, one of the most toxic environments I've ever been in my fucking life.
Really?
Hands down.
I
If
didn't
you
go
had
there,
to
so I
ask
don't know.
me, I would do Afghan 10 times over before going back to fucking...
Yeah, and I know you didn't like Afghans. So
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Yep.
Saying something. Shit.
Yeah. So, like, obviously I'm jaded about the military, and like the people that go and like, you know, go over to Ukraine are people that, like, I see them and I'm like, well, some have military experience, some don't. And like they're a rudderless ship, and you know, the parents probably fucking, they don't talk to their parents, they don't have many friends, and they're like, this is an easy way to fucking, you know, get fucking glory in a Weet-Bix box, you know, and then they see it for what it is, and you're like, what the fuck, man? But I'm also like on the side of things, like, I don't just, you know, we're expected just to watch what happens on the news and be like, that's the narrative that we're told. But a lot of people don't even know that before Russia, like, went into Ukraine.
Mm.
Ukraine had killed nearly fucking, over 30,000 people, like Russian-speaking natives that were living in a certain area. I think it's called the Donbass or something like that. But they had killed those people.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know
Nobody
that.
talks about that. Nobody talks about
Why
that
did they do
shit.
that?
I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know, but nobody talks about it. And, people like, Russia's encroaching on, United Nations or whatever. And it's like, well, hang on a second. Isn't the United Nations, like, just getting closer and closer to the fucking doorstep of Russia? Like, what the fuck would you do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people go, we're the West. We're not the bad guys. But by 100% we are the fucking bad guys.
Yeah.
I went to Afghanistan, and it's like those people, you're telling them, don't grow fucking opium, don't grow this, whatever. That's the only thing that fucking grows there.
Yeah.
And then, 98% of the world's pharmaceutical opioids comes from Afghanistan. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
Fucking, of course, mate. They've got an interest in that resource.
Oh, yeah.
Like, look, all you got to do is look at, like, what happened to Saddam Hussein. Like, didn't have any fucking weapons of mass destruction, but they told the world he did, and we all fell for it. Because you listen to the little box, and you're like, this is what it is. And so people are doing that now in the same thing with, like, the Russia-Ukraine thing. It's like, look at Vlad Putin, he's a horrible cunt. Yeah, he might be.
Yeah, and probably.
But it doesn't excuse all the shit that fucking, Ukraine are doing as well. War's a horrible fucking thing. And then it leads to this thing where, like, people go and do this shit.
Well, both
and
sides think
they
they're
don't even
right.
have, they don't even have skin in the game. That's it. Both sides do think they're right. 100%.
The Russians think what they're doing is correct, and whether that is subjective. And then the Ukraine think what they're doing is correct, and again, that's subjective. Both
absolutely.
people are looking at it from opposite sides.
We get it's like, here, open your fucking mouth, eat all the shit, and like that's it. Don't think about the other side of it. And if you do, then you're an absolute cunt. Do you know what I mean? It's
Absolutely,
like I speak to people, and then they're like, how can you have that point of view on this? Like, aren't you seeing what's happening? It's like, well, no, I don't really watch the news.
Yeah, I don't watch the news.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it's just what we're force fed through. And I think a lot of people are coming to the realization that, maybe there's not a lot of truth in all the things that
I think the good thing is now that we have access to more things. So it definitely helps that we have, Facebook, Instagram, all that sort of stuff, and we have people on the inside sort of sharing their stories. And, doesn't sound like a great place to be, so that's why I wouldn't want to go there.
Like, I empathize, I'm very sympathetic, and I feel bad for the people of Ukraine, absolutely.
But then also the people of Russia that have no...
That don't want it. They don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And, it's like all of the things that are happening, like the Russian football, like the soccer team weren't allowed, they're not allowed to participate internationally anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Russian...
And they don't support it, I'm guessing. They're not like, let's do it. They're like, hey, I just want to...
There might be some...
Kick the old pigskin.
That's it. There might be some. There might be others that are like, I couldn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But it's like... If you brought up in that country, and everybody has a certain element of patriotism, it's, that may not be a true statement for a lot of people.
Yeah,
but
it's a very broad sweep. But I think everyone has a respect.
And so you think all the information that they would be told through their media as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's very like, have a look at all this shit. And the thing a lot of people don't understand and don't know is that a lot of the mainstream media outlets that we have access to, they're all owned under the same umbrella sort of deal. So all of the information that it doesn't matter where you get it from, it's from the same trickle down top bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Media bias. Yeah.
Have you got any tinfoil so I can make a fucking hat?
No, James would be good at that.
Tell that story.
That is a good story. Speaking of tin hats, so my father is a saddler by trade, so he can make basically anything out of leather.
Out of leather.
Yeah, so the main thing is like saddlery and harness.
Thank you for my arseless chaps, James.
He did make you some dog stuff.
He did, yeah. He made me a really good muzzle.
Yep.
Dog muzzle, the way I asked him to make it as well, with the reinforced metal rod at the front.
Yeah.
It's fucking...
And he's
A
very
link.
creative like that.
Yep.
And so because he is, he has a little shop front down in South Australia, the Leather Shed. And so a gentleman came in because it was open to the public. Now he's got it closed and he only does like things when people call up and very specific because he doesn't like people. And so this fella comes in and he's got a bandana. And he says, can you make me a leather bandana? Leather bandana. And Dad's like, yeah, colour, how big, gave him the size. So he made it for him. He came back a week later. And so he takes it off. And he's got tinfoil underneath. And then he puts the tinfoil in the leather bandana and puts it back on his head. And then he says, don't worry, they're not getting in here. And Dad was just like, okay. And he paid him. And he left. And Dad was like, crazy.
All right, so I wonder what the fuck that is.
The assumption is that they can't, from my understanding,
Read your mind.
Yeah, they can't like get into your head, whoever they are, like aliens or the government, or they believe someone is trying to get into your brain and read your thoughts. And the thing is, they can read my thoughts if they want to. It's not that exciting.
Yeah, true.
And we tell everyone everything anyway. Like they already
do.
know. Like
they got it right here, man.
Right here.
Right
we
here.
tell them everything, especially if you're very heavy on social media.
Yep. But even so it doesn't matter. Like a lot of the things so Instagram, for example, like they changed their terms and conditions, and in order to have an account, like there's a whole thing, and it's basically got access to your device.
Yeah.
And so when you look up things on the internet, that's why people, get personalized ads. And it's like, we were just talking about fucking, inflatable, like big red clown shoes that I want to wear, and then they turn big red clown shoes turn up,
And there's been people that say that isn't true. And then there's been people that say that like they've done experiments and all of that. But then in saying that, because they say that it's not true, of course they're going to say that. But then, there was an interview done with Mark Zuckerberg, the leader of the lizards, and
fucking over is, mate.
He actually, they could see his laptop in the background, and he'd blanked out the webcam and the microphone, so if whilst he was using his laptop, and then also I think we've spoken about this before on the podcast. They don't let their children, Bill Gates,
social media,
all of those sort of people. They don't let them have their devices or social media and stuff like that. They're very hesitant. Because they know how bad it can be.
Okay, so there's that argument. Like, I'll play devil's advocate as well. It may be that they don't want their family getting hacked as well.
True. Yeah,
I
that's true.
I fucking hate Bill Gates. I fucking hate him.
Not his biggest fan. No. Definitely aware of that.
Like Zuckerberg, fucking all of those cunts. Yeah. You can all die in a big vat of your own shit.
Yep.
I don't like you.
Yep. Very vivid.
But if that is the thing, it's like, how evil is that? If that is, they know that it's so bad that they won't let their own children do it. But they're more than happy for all the other fucking peasants
Billions
underneath.
Of people, yeah.
Like
2 billion users on Facebook. They're happy for them.
That is insidious. It's evil.
It's because we're money to them.
Yep, and they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, because we're data that then someone they can sell to advertising, because that's how they make their money. And I understand that, it's a business. At the end of the day, it is a business, whether it's a good business or a bad business.
Yeah, but there is no moral compass in that.
No.
There is absolutely none. And you can hide behind the fact that you're like, oh, well, social media is so good for this, that, and the other. It's like, yes, but what you're doing. You know how addictive the systems that you're making are, and how it's potentially.
And they say big things as well, especially with younger kids, like teenagers now, with the things like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they're like depression and anxiety, and then suicide rates
so much higher, man.
So much higher.
Yep.
And I remember we had MSN. I don't know if you had MSN,
yeah.
And that was like a big thing as well. And I felt, I'd have things where I was anxious about that sort of stuff. And that
what
was
do you
just
mean?
If I'd ask someone for their, mainly a girl, if I'd ask a girl for their
MSN,
and they wouldn't give it to me, I'd be like, oh fuck, man, you'd feel like shit. But
yep.
Now it's like that next level, right?
Yeah.
And I remember Facebook came out it became big when I was in year 12, so in 2008, and we already had MySpace and stuff like that, and it was just another social media, but everyone was adding everyone, right? It was no big deal.
That was the
thing.
thing.
But now it's like, it's a thing.
Yeah,
thing.
I'm not massive on, like, I don't have a massive presence on either social media thing. I literally
Mm.
just have it because it's like
For
an
business.
for an avenue to advertise
Yeah,
for
and that's
business.
that's where I think it is very powerful for people like yourself because it can give you a voice.
But
Um,
it's yeah, but like what you were saying rings true in that, like, for the younger generation that
mm,
are out there today, it's fucking horrible.
mm,
Like, I was at the pool the other day with Han, and we're in North Lakes, and like the bell had rung, so they're going in between classes, and it's just like a fucking moving horde of these zombie children that are just looking at their fucking phones.
And how old do you reckon they were?
Oh, that would, well, they'd have to be, I'd say, year 10, 9 to 12 ish.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So none of them are older than 17.
yeah.
But
Very impressionable at that age as well, and they've just got their heads down. You reckon?
and that, like, they did.
Mm,
Like, there was probably like a handful of kids that weren't on their phone and they were talking to each other, but
mm,
that was it. They were just heads down, looking at the shit,
mm,
you know. And
mm,
it just made me like, I was like, fuck, that's horrible,
mm.
you know.
Well, I guess we could potentially talk about that, like how we will introduce phones, social media, the internet to our children, because
Yeah, yeah,
obviously,
for real.
we've obviously you've I've got longer than you because I don't have a bun in the oven, so I've got way longer.
Mm-hmm.
But like that will be a big thing, and I'm guessing it will, like in say 12 years time when Billy's 11, 12 ish, you know, formative years. His friends were on it. Oh, hey, Dad, I want to be on it. Like,
Yeah.
opens up that can of worms. Like my parents were pretty casual with it because they really didn't know about it.
You
They
don't.
just
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
and the big thing they wanted just didn't want me to be on TV or on the computer all the time. They wanted me to be outside because
Yeah,
they're
doing
like,
something.
yeah, and I lived on a farm, so that was my access to the outside world.
Yep.
I did spend a lot of time outside, but yeah, so that's an interesting thing about like when do they have a phone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Fuck yeah.
like, because now like it's iPhones. It's not like I remember I had a 3315 and it was a hand me down.
Yeah.
Like it was my sister's old one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it could text and
Fuck,
call.
man, those were good old days, though. Hey,
Yeah.
when it was just like, you didn't have the internet at the tap of a button. Like,
No.
it was fucking grouse. And I
Yeah.
wish kids got to experience that these days.
Yeah, and I remember my uncle was very big on that with when I went over and stayed with them and hung out with my cousins. He would be like real strict on making sure that we'd go outside and he'd be like, all right, he'd like literally take the power cord from the PlayStation
Fuck yeah.
so we couldn't do it. But then he's like, go outside, you got to shoot 20 hoops before you come back inside.
That's a fucking warrior.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He knows what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was like his decision and how he did it. And it's I'd be very interested to speak to my cousins who both have kids, how they're going to do it because
Yeah, for real.
you
Yep.
know, I remember he was very strict, and he
It'd
was very
be
very strict when I came around, and I was always the one would get them in trouble because I'd be like pushing buttons,
yeah.
and I'd get them to do stuff because I was a little shit. So then they'd do stuff, and yeah, they'd get in trouble, and they'd be like, "Why'd you do this?" And I'd be like, "Ooh, that was fucking all me. That was all me." Yeah.
But like, yeah, it'd be interesting to know from just any parent that is currently dealing with, having kids that are of the age where it's like,
Mm.
don't I give them a phone? Like, how much internet access do they have?
What
Like,
kind of phone?
that's right. How do you handle it?
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting to fucking
Mm.
hear from people. So if anybody wants to get in touch with us, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there she is. Oh, got me that time. Fucking
bullshit it did. You dickhead.
Anyway, you can sign up for it. Sign off for us, mate.
Oh, another episode. That was a good one. Been a little bit. How you going?
And so where did we go? We started off, I can't remember how we started talking about childhood trauma and stuff.
We touched on that again.
And then we somehow got on to
The Russian-Ukraine war. And
Yeah.
then
literally like what grinds my gears. Fucking
Yep. And then also spoke about a bit about defense in our experience, but then also conspiracy theories and tin hats, tin foil, literally tin foil. And then we finished again on the childhood sort of how we want to parent, I guess. I think that's
in
probably,
terms of internet and technology.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And your love of Bill Gates
Yep.
and Mark Zuckerberg if you three could be in a room together, you'd probably have a great time.
It'd be so good.
Oh,
So good.
Mark Zuckerberg, you've seen him. He does a bit of martial arts. He'd probably beat you up.
Does he do martial arts?
Have you not seen that video? I'll show you the video afterwards.
Is he bad at it or is he good?
He's pretty mediocre. Not that I'm like he's doing mixed martial arts, and it's like you can tell it's someone who's only trained with their coach.
Okay.
You know, like he hasn't trained with just average Joes.
Yeah.
Because he'd probably get towed up.
Yeah, he hasn't fucking dealt with a fucking.
And the coach is like, yeah, you're really doing well. Well done, Mark. That's the great stuff. Not that I can talk.
Of course, he's going to say that to a fucking multi-billionaire.
Yeah, that's paying his bills.
Yep.
And not that I'm this Jet Li motherfucker, but I at least when I do roll, I roll with people, and I get fucking beaten up all the time because I'm still a white belt. And that's probably the same with you with boxing, right? No one was taking it easy on you.
No fucking way, man.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
But we'll finish there.